Okay, thank you very much. I want to take the opportunity to welcome each and everyone to today's section. I think most of the rules are already set and we are aware of them. One very important one is our names. As I keep announcing since yesterday, if you join the page, kindly change your name to the full name as you have used during the registration. Also, if you have any challenge with joining or you have special challenge with the meeting time in any way, please let us know ahead of time so that if we can put in some special arrangements, we will see how best we can do it. Because at a stance, if you don't participate, we can award you any certificate. So kindly bear with us because the council is on us to give them the right data. So kindly, and we want to keep our relationship with the council so that every year or every now and then they will keep giving us accreditation to be offering similar trainings. So kindly bear with us. If you don't participate in the sessions, then it will be extremely difficult for us to give you any certificate of a kind. So kindly try your best and join. If you, like I said, if you have any special need, let us know officially. So that in case the council asks us, we also know what to tell them. All right. That does not mean that you should leave the page and go and write anything and send it to us. No. If you write and if you are not convinced, then of course the council cannot be convinced. A60, kindly change your name. Someone has his name with 11 RE result, a lot of numbers. Just type in, I don't know what it means. Kindly change your name so that we are beginning the meeting very soon. Mr. Evans is ready for us today to take us through the second section. Then whilst we prepare for tomorrow and the day next. So in the meantime, we are starting. We are expecting more than 700 people to join. That is the reality. We are expecting more than 700 people to join. We are now around 200. So if you've not joined, kindly quickly join or kindly call someone who you know supposed to join us before we start. I'm adding 2 minutes. So exactly 12 minutes after 4, we are going to start. So Mr. Evans, you can share your screen and a lot of people are sending me messages. If it's in relationship with what I just said, kindly just not send me any message because some of these things I don't have much control. If you have challenge, you should have, in fact, call us and inform us long ago. So please send me a message that you are joining. That is what I want to hear. If you are in a rural community that you cannot join, I don't know how best I can. Maybe you have to travel and join us here in the next 20 minutes. Get to the place, you can get good network. Okay, kindly bear with us because the council wants us to not give them any information, anyone, just the CPD. So please kindly bear with us and we don't want to have any issue with them. So please kindly do whatever you can do to join us. All right. Thank you very much for your audience. Kindly mute yourself if your mic is on. Kindly mute yourself so that we will not have any interruptions. Akatel 1B, kindly change your name. Akatel 1B, kindly change your name. All right. Okay, so Brother Evans, kindly go ahead and let's begin. Hello, Evans.
Hello.
Yes, Evans, you can begin.
Okay. Good evening to all of us. Yesterday, we started talking about ISO. So you were talking about the environmental management system, the ISO 14001, where you discuss certain basic things, how the integrated management system is done. So today you want to continue from where you ended yesterday. And by the time you'll be done, you finish with the ISO 14001, where you have some practical sections as well from the audit. After the auditing has been done, what can be done so that it can be used in our various facilities to improve upon the system you are already operating. So today we are starting with the environmental management programs. So when you talk about the environmental management programs, what are they? What are the systems that one has to put in place to ensure that the programs that he or she is putting in place will really achieve the target? So all the formal processes, all the procedures, all the views, all the input and output that you got from your staff, your team, all those processes that you put together, then you form all the procedures that you have put in place. You gather all those procedures. And already you have been talking about certain objectives. So how will you engage in such a program to achieve the objective and target that you have set in order to achieve or conform to the ISO 14001? So these programs take into consideration to the time frame and all the means. So what are the means that one has to use to ensure that he conforms to the ISO? So all these processes are followed in this environmental management program. So you ensure that you input all these things in paper. If it is an SOPs, what are the procedures you are putting in place to ensure that you conform to all the things that the ISO required? So these programs are done to ensure that the target is met, and the target, you are meeting the target, it means you are conforming to the ISO. So these programs take into consideration, we are talking about the environmental management system. We are looking at the environment. So if you're a health facility, we are looking at the pollution you are causing. Is there things that you are doing that is causing air pollution? So what are the things that you are doing or generating from your health facility which is causing pollution, which affect other people in the system? So when you look at maybe installation, so the machine that you use for the installation, is it generating or bringing out air or is causing pollution to the environment, you as a facility manager, you as a staff, which in one way or the other, you are part of the team, need to consider this. You look at the energy use. So what energy, if you are using a generator, what energy are you using? Is the energy, does it have any effect on the system? So you look at it, is it an effective energy system you are using? Or the energy system you are using, is it causing effect into the environment, or is it causing any harm in the environment that you are operating in? So you have to look at all these things as a professional. Then you look at packaging. So the waste you are generating, maybe the waste that you are generating, which method are you going to use? Which method are you going to use that you are going to achieve that? So how will you package the waste you are generating so that you don't end up just disposing or throwing out any waste into the environment and affect other people, because you are operating a health facility as health personnel. All the waste that you are generating.
Yeah, sorry. I'm receiving message that some said they can't hear you. Is it a general problem or just few of them? Can you give us your feedback so that we know if it's a problem from our end?
Yes, can hear.
You can hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you, please.
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear very well.
So that person should check his speakers. All right, thank you. Evans, you can continue.
Okay. So we are generating a waste that is harmful into the system. So if we know in the health system, we deal with human waste and all these human waste are infectious. So because these wastes are infectious, what are the ways that we can do so that you don't end up just throwing the waste anyhow to affect other people? So you take into consideration in all this. Are you going to separate the waste into various forms so that you don't mix infectious waste with general waste? So the program takes into consideration of all these things so that when it's educating the people, when it's giving the training to his or her people, then it knows the kind of training to give so that people will know the kind of system or the kind of attention they have to give to the various separation of waste or segregation of waste. Then the transport method. So if you are generating the waste, how are you going to transport it? Should it be in a way that it shouldn't be harmful to the system? Because maybe you are transporting the waste from one end to the other place, but if you don't transport the waste well, it means you end up polluting the system or the environment. So you have to consider all these things in your environmental programs that you'll be doing. So then you talk of the water waste. So water pollution, sometimes someone will be operating a health facility, and instead of the person to dig a hole or to seek the opinion of maybe EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, on proper ways by which they can dispose all this water waste, they will end up just connecting this waste into the other water bodies around or just into the environment. And all these things affect the system. So you have to consider all these things when we are doing the training. So what are the environmental management programs that you'll be talking about? So these programs we are talking about, as we've already indicated in the various ways that you have to, there are key points that you have to take into consideration so that you don't end up polluting the system. So one of the key things that you have to do, or what this program does, is that it takes into consideration responsibilities. So who is being given a particular responsibility? So within the team, you assign responsibility. People are given a specific duty to perform. So if those duties are not performed, then those people will be held responsible. those people will be held responsible. So the program defined responsibility. So if you give anybody responsibility, they have to perform in accordance to that. You look at resources. So the programs talk about the resources which are needed. So you want the ISO standard to be implemented successfully. So you want to conform to the standard. And if you want to conform to the standard, that means you need resources to be able to provide continuous education or to be able to continue correct all the non-conformances that you'll be getting. And all these things will come with resources. You need resources to be able to achieve this. So these programs teaches or brings out all these into consideration. Then these programs is able to emphasize, it more emphasizes the objectives that you have set. So in your environmental policy, you set objective what you want to achieve. So if you want to achieve such objectives, then more education will have to be given so that such a target will be the achievement will be there. So it more emphasizes the objectives, the target that you have set, so that the staffs or the employees will be aware. And if they are aware, then definitely everybody work towards achieving such an objectives. Documentation. So it also talks about the need for documentation. So these programs emphasizes more on documentation. So the SOP that you are operating, if you are writing SOPs, who is responsible for writing all those SOP? Who is responsible for ensuring that the SOP, the standard operating procedures, are being followed? So this documentation is very important, and the environmental management programs emphasizes on all these things. Then the shadows. So if you are going to have management meeting, when are you going to have management meetings? Is it yearly or you have to do it quarterly? So all these things are being done or being given in these programs. So, and it ensures that these ones are aligned with the management system that you have in place. So how can you link these objectives to the programs that you'll be doing? Then if you really want to link these programs to what you want to do, then you should start with the environmental management system objectives. So what are the objectives that you set? So in your health facilities, maybe we want to achieve, one of the requirements is that maybe you want an ISO accreditation. And this ISO accreditation comes with a lot of things that you have to sacrifice to do. Maybe you have to ensure that you are having your environment that you are in. You ensure that there is no emission of certain chemicals or poison into the system. So if you have stated this as an objective, then you look at the ways, how can you prevent or how can you ensure that these chemicals are not being emitted into the environment? So you make sure all the staffs, all the people are aware, and you work towards achieving such an objective that will not be emitted into the environment. Then you match programs to objectives. So you look at these objectives that you have set, and all the programs that you are doing should be so towards the objectives, because if you are not able to achieve the objective, then doing all these programs is of no use. So what are the objectives that you have set? So in your facility, if you want to achieve ISO, what are the things that you have to do? What are the things that the programs will have to hammer on so that these objectives will achieve that? Then you review the program. So you look at the program, you see that, oh, these are the non-conformances that you raised. Maybe in your facility last year, you saw that certain people who were operating or who were working in the environment as cleaners do not have safety training. So what do you have to do? Because they do not have safety training, they end up just mixing the waste, maybe general waste with the infectious waste. So you look at it, oh, because these cleaners are not trained in safety, that is why they are doing this particular things. That is why they are missing the waste. So what will you do? So the training should be able to hammer towards the safety aspect so that you don't end mixing general waste to infectious waste. So the programs therefore run in that line so that people will be aware, the cleaners will be trained so that those non-conformances won't reoccur. Then you ensure that all the non-conformances that you have raised, when you talk about non-conformances, you are talking about non-fulfillment of a standard. So you are in a facility, this is the way standard operating procedure is supposed to be performed, but you want to do a shortcut, so you don't fulfill such a non-conformance. So when you do that, it means it's a non-conformance. So any non-fulfillment of a standard is a non-conformance. So anything that you generate as a non-conformance, then you have to ensure that such an issue is being cleared. Then you initiate, so any programs that will be new programs which will ensure that the objectives are being achieved or the target is being gotten to, you ensure that you do that. And as I said earlier in our earlier presentation, I said objective should be something which should be measurable. So if you cannot measure objective, then it's something which cannot be an objective, but objective should be something that you can quantify, you can measure it, and it should be something which is achievable. So you have to look at that aspect of it. So this is a template where you have to plan how objectives are being planned alongside. So we are having a facility where we generate a lot of noise. So maybe in our health facility, we are generating a lot of noise, either through the generator we are using, which may serve as a disturbance to the people in the community. So if you have seen that this is an issue other people are facing, what can you do so that you can solve such an issue? So the project title or the plan that you want to achieve is that you want to ensure that noise are minimized. You want to ensure that noise are minimized. So that was the day that you wanted to. So you look at the effect or the aspect of it. What aspect is it? You look at it. So the aspect of it is that it generates noise from the compressor. So what impact is it? Is it creating on the environment as well? So you look at noise, environmental noise. So you look at it. So our objective is to ensure that we decrease the noise to the minimum. So if you want to decrease the noise, what are the ways that you can put in place to achieve such a noise reduction? So we can build wall around the area. So where the generator is it possible that when you build a wall around the generator, you'll be able to stop the noise, or the noise will be reduced in such a way that it won't serve as a disturbance to the others in the health facility and to our client as well? So, or is it a way that you can buy a new noise compressor which will help reduce the noise? So you look at all these things. So who is responsible? So you have to assign responsibility, as you said, because these programs target or they ensure that people are given a specific responsibility to perform. So who has been assigned to do that? And what is the function? Maintenance. So when was it last done? So you look at all these things. So if you are supposed to get a new one, build a wall, Then we investigate all these things, and at the end of the day, you see that you'll be able to achieve the objective, which is to decrease the noise in the system. So these are the environmental management system, planning steps. So the steps that you take to achieve our objectives. So if you identify your team, yesterday you talked about setting up a team if you want to achieve this ISO standard. If you want to achieve it, then it means that you have to identify your team. After getting your team, you define the fence line. Which barrier are you going? So what are the modalities to achieve that? So then we identify, or if you have an environmental policy already, either you modify or you identify or you write a new one. So if modification, there's already existing one, but because you want to get into the ISO standard, if you could modify that one to suit the one in the ISO, what the ISO demand, you can do that. Then we look at the gap analysis. Yesterday, you talked about gap analysis, whereby you have to look at the system you have in place. What are the ways that you can do to identify a specific issues which is causing problems in the system? So when you identify these ones, then you can then do programs that will help you close all these gaps. Then you identify the aspect and impact, as I already said, which the impact you talk of when you wanted to do about the noise was the noise pollution that one has to. Then you determine which of them, the management, which of them do they see it as more important, or which one is their priority. So you look at all these things. Then you develop this objective and target. Then you create programs to achieve such a step. So when you are planning, by the end of the planning, what should be achieved? So you should look at, you should have a prepared statement. So environmental policy statement, as you know. So you put out the team, as I've already said. You have to conduct the gap analysis to identify any loopholes. Then you create an aspect register. So when you are in the system, you identify a non-conformance. You should have a register where all the non-conformances have to be registered or documented there. Then, as you are trying to conform to the standard, which are the legal. So this ISO conforming to the standard is normally linked to the legal requirements in the environment. So you have to look at EPA. What are the policies that EPA have in place? So if you're operating a health facility, what are the ways that the EPA ensures that the Environmental Protection Agency, what are their systems? What are the laws that ensure that the system is being protected? If it is about safety, what are the safety measures when it comes to fire? So the fire service people come there. So what are the requirements of the fire service? So they come and do all those assessments. So when they do the assessment, they know, oh, this place, is it fire friendly? What are the ways that you can put so that in case there is fire in your system, you can easily get out of the system? You have to look at all those things. Then we determine the significant impact. After that, what the objective, what impact will it have in the system? So as we said, all these objectives, and you create environmental management programs. So implementation, these programs, after you have documented them, after you have them in the system, you have to ensure that they are well implemented, they are put into action. If you are saying that you are not supposed to mix waste, how will you differentiate? How will you segregate waste in your system so that you don't end up mixing general waste to infectious waste? It's a key point that you have to ensure you are not mixing the waste. So you have to look at it. So what are the systems? Are you separating the waste, or you are just doing anything? You have to look at it in that aspect. So you have to be well equipped in that. So as you are doing that, as you don't want to make the waste, it means that you must provide, if it is polythene, you are using, if you are using yellow polythene for infectious waste and black for general waste, then constantly you should ensure that those polythenes and things are being provided. So you have to ensure you constantly provide for them. Where performance in, so what are the other ways that you can improve? So you look at opportunities for improvement project. You get there when you talk about it. So you roll out training. So what are the trainings that you do? Procedures, which you should not joke with it. What are your SOPs that you have to go with it? So if it's segregation of waste, are you following the SOP? Do you have even SOP in place? Has there been a written SOP to ensure that waste are being segregated? You have to look at these things. Then documentation, everything that you get have to be documented. So any of the issues that you are having will have to be documented. So ensure documentation of the waste. Then you look at new job assignments. So what people can I bring on board? The people you can bring on board to improve the system. So you look at it so that you bring those people on board to improve the system. So you look at all those things. If you have to assign new people to bring to be on board so that you can improve the system. So implementation talks about, so if you are having environmental management system, then you should have a manual. A manual normally is a document which contains all the activities which are done in your facility. So from how your organizational structure to the last thing you do, this document, this manual contains all the documents. So in your facility, if you are dealing with hospital, is it from director? Who is the director? And who are under the directors? So to the last person. So you look at these documents, stipulate all these things. If you are operating a laboratory, what are the ways that you use to generate this results? So these documents will have to be stated. So the same way environmental management system manual, it contains all the activities which are done in the environment. So what are the ways that you have to do to preserve the environment? You look at it. So your intent and direction, how do you do it? How do you want to do it? You look at this. What the procedures? So what to do and how is it done and who does it? So responsibility. So if you are saying you have a safety manager who ensures safety in your facility, so as who should be appointed as a safety manager, and all those things have to be there. So you have to ensure that the person who is going to be a safety manager, there's a description for that person and stating what the person is supposed to do. So you have to ensure the person does all those things. So the instruction, how the person does it, and what are the evidence? So records, because if I say I'm a safety manager going to organize a safety training, what is the evidence that I have the right to organize a safety training? So it has to be on record. There should be a document to back that, because without document, you can't just do it. So as I've already talked about this one, which are structure and responsibility. So all these things, so you facilitate to define, document, communicate organizational rule in the facility. So you have to do all these things. So how will you ensure that this one reflects into the ISO? So if it doesn't reflect, maybe you are now going to perform or implement the ISO 14001. And this is new to your facility. So your facility may even not have this environmental management system in place, or even if it have, it is not up to standard. So what do? It means that because the facility do not have this in place, you have to get the ISO standard, or you have to write something to conformance with the ISO. Or if you have it in place, but it doesn't meet the standard, what do? You revise that chart so that it can now conform to what the standard is saying. So you modify to include all those things and ensure performance is being achieved. And you locate training and financial resources as you've already talked about. So normally you have to get environmental management coordinator. So what does this environmental management coordinator does and who is he? So when you talk of the management, he defines the rules, he coordinates all the system or he ensures that this environmental management system is being put in place. So he's given such a responsibility and he has to ensure that he reports in accordance to that to management. So you have to do this as well. So you have to periodically review performance. So what do? How the policy, the objective that you set, maybe if it is quarterly, you set objective within the year. So quarterly you can meet. You said that you didn't want to mix general waste with infectious waste. Are you doing that? What are our chances? Maybe at first you were doing just 10%. Now, when you met quarterly, what was the improvement? Was it now to 50% or are we achieving 90% or we are now at 100%? So you look at all these things. So you measure individual performance. So individually, who is performing well? Sometimes in doing this review, you can even give award people who are doing well so that it encourages staff to do more. So you look at it, which of the staffs are performing to ensure that this ISO is achieved. So you can give award in that effect. So the resource allocation, and these resources are used to, you use the resources to train personnel. So sometimes you have to train the personnel. You have to look at the physical resources. So if it's your facility, what can be done? Maybe already you have a facility where your environment, there's not even space, but like the rooms you are operating in, it's not spacious. So what can you do? If you have to expand, you have to do that because resources need to be provided. The equipment. So what equipment will you buy? As we were talking about in the noise reduction, where we are talking about using compressors. So if you are using an equipment that is making noise or that is generating effect or which is creating a harmful effect on the environment, what can you do to reduce this impact? You have to look at it. So if you have to get equipment that will have no such effect, then we need to do it. Then the training, as you've already talked about, constant training to ensure that things are being done right. So you look at audience. So what are the specific trainings that you can do? So you sometimes have to train people. People you think when you give them training can also train people. So you identify a trainer, then you train them so that they could also train other staff and in your facility. So you have to develop and implement training schedule. In your training, maybe you have seen that in your facility, a lot of people they just throw rubbish or they mix the waste anyhow. So if you want to achieve a proper segregation of waste, what will you do? Because if you are not doing it right, it means that it will affect the system. So what can you do? It means that we need to ensure that constant training, if it has to be quarterly or even sometimes if it has to be mentally to achieve the objective you want to, then you have to do it. So all these things will have to be done to achieve such a result. So awareness, you have to constantly ISO awareness. So a lot of people may not be aware of the ISO that you have in the system. So how can you make it, as yesterday I said, it has to be public. everybody should have access to the ISO. Everybody will have to have access to the ISO, which can give a really an impact that you need. So you conform to the training. When you are training, what do you like more focus on? So you conform to the policy that you've set and what the ISO states. So you look at the responsibility. Sometimes there will be emergency. You have to look at, if there is emergency, what can I do? You have to look at all these things. If there is emergency, what can you do? So you have to ensure that emergency procedures are put in place. Maybe all of a sudden you see that there is some fumes that is coming from anywhere. What will you do? Quickly, you have to attend it. So, and you have to look at, if you move away, maybe in a facility where you are operating, like a laboratory, for instance, in a laboratory where we are running a particular test, and the ISO is telling you that add A to B, but you decided that A to B is a long process. So what can you do? You want to finish fast, or you want to quickly finish and leave. So you decided to add B to B. In that way, you are not following standard operating procedures, and this can have a specific effect on your system. So it means that the results you'll be generating will not meet standard, or will not meet the required standard. So you need to follow the standard operating procedure, or the specific one that has been written down, that has been documented. You need to look at it. So how can you communicate so that everybody in the system? So in communication, you can have internal and external communication. With the internal communication, you also have the two of them, which is the vertical and the horizontal. When you talk of the vertical, you are talking about communication within the vertical communication, maybe from management level. So if a senior manager reports to or from line manager. So when you talk of line manager, you are talking about managers. They are also employees at the lower who manages other employees. So if they are getting information, they give information to senior managers. So senior managers to report to them, so that they also carry information to the lower rank as well. So you look at all these ones. So then line managers to take the information to the staff as well. So you have to look at all these things. Then with the horizontal, it's between offices. So you have to information from, maybe if you are having a health facility where communication is being done within the nutrition or the optometry department to the lab. So you look at all these things in our communication, and it could be within an office as well. Then you have external communication. External, you are talking about maybe within your organization where you communicate to EPA. Maybe EPA has said that you are supposed to do something, but you have not done it. What can you do? So sometimes you look at the documents. After you have reviewed your document, then you now communicate to the EPA that, oh, you said I should do this. These are the standards I'm supposed to do in order to meet your requirements. I have done it. This is the document that you show you. So you communicate to them as well. So, and you can also the regulatory body. So for instance, if you are a health facility operating, you are required by law to be registered with HIFRA. So what do you do? If there is any gaps, maybe HIFRA comes to inspect your facility and it tells you do A, B, C, and C. You look at the way you dispose your waste. He sees that there is something wrong with it, so you have to do it properly. He makes suggestions to you, oh, do it. Make sure you have dug this, and make sure you don't throw this water waste is not connected to this water body, or it's not connected directly to the environment. But maybe you are supposed to duck, or you are supposed to bend this. So let me see that you have this before I can give you the accreditation. So in that case, you also, after doing all those things, you communicate to ensure that you have also, so that is the external one, where you are not communicating direct to their other department, but outside their department. So you look at all these things. So documentation, as we've been hammering on, because it's a very important one. So we describe the main element of the environmental protection system. So what are the core things that you are supposed to do to achieve the ISO 14001? So you look at it. What are the direction? So the documents you've written, the SOPs that you have in the system, the quality manual you have, what is he saying? What direction is he putting us to? Is it telling us to do A, B, C, and D? So you follow that. Then you support employee awareness. So after you have done the documentation, how can you make sure that employees are aware? Because sometimes new staffs have come. They are not even aware of the documents that you have in place. So what do you have to do? It means that you have to train them. So constant training is needed to ensure that staffs or employees are aware you have documents in place. Then you have to ensure first, you have to evaluate the system. Sometimes you look at the system. I set this objective. Where am I? Am I achieving something, or I'm still stagnant, or I'm still where I am? So you look at it and you try to improve upon it in your documentation. But in ISO, training is a key element, because as you employ people, as people come in and out, it means that they need training. Sometimes even in our health facilities, you don't take training serious, because for instance, maybe you are operating as a laboratory scientist, which you have been observing results, a particular resource, but you go for leave like 2 months or 1 month and you come. In normal way, you are supposed to be trained, because you have gone on leave, and when you went, if you did not continuously revise or continuous educating yourself about certain things, it means that you will not be competent to carry such an activity. So when you come, you are supposed to be trained, you are supposed to be given reassessed to ensure that you are competent. So training and review of performance is very important. It helps you to know the things you are doing it in the right way, and you are doing the right thing, because somebody may be competent today, but because he went on leave for so long, it means if the person were not revising in that particular direction, he or she may not be competent to carry such a test. So a training is needed in that situation. So example of the documentation, you have the policy statement, as you've already hammered on. Procedures, what are your SOPs? The SOP of maybe segregation of waste, what does it say? Are you following the SOP? You are supposed to go according to the SOP. Are you doing that? Process information, how do information, when you have new documents, when documents are reviewed, maybe in your manual, you said that documentation will be done, or review of documents will be done every 2 years or every year. Or when new documents are being written, do you communicate? Do you communicate to people that indeed this document has been revised, this and this has been added? Would there be a training for people to be aware? You have to look at it. Then how organizational chart, how does it go? Who is supposed to report to who in the organization? You have to look at all these documentation. Then site emergency plan. So what are the site emergency? What are the plans in case of emergency? What are your procedures you are putting in place? Then you have records where all things, documents, keeping them. Do you have records of every activity that you carry out in your system? You have to have this. So these are emergency response. What are the requirements? So you identify safety plans. So what are the safety plans that you are putting in place in case there is something, what will you do? So you have to put safety measures. You have to address potential environmental effects. So you look at the environment, what are the potential hazard that I'm supposed to do? I'm generating. So if I'm operating a health facility and a lot of, I get a lot of waste, maybe after the sample has been taken, what are the procedure that I'm to put in place so that I don't just end up throwing the normal samples I've taken into a normal refuse dump. When I do that, what am I doing? Somebody gets there, and even children can get into the refuse dump and pick those samples. And those samples, we say they are infectious. So if you are putting an infectious samples into a normal refuse dump where people can have access, what are you doing? It means that you are causing a potential danger to other people as well. So you have to look at this. So as we said, documents review, which has been stated in the manual. So when are you supposed to review the documents? The documents, how is it supposed to be reviewed? So all your documentation, if it is supposed to be reviewed every year, it means that in every year, the particular month you did the review, you are supposed to review the document. And you can even go through the documents. If it's not supposed to be reviewed, then you move ahead. So you have to look at all these things. Then you conduct periodic tests of procedure. So if it's fire drill, sometimes you have to do fire drills to ensure that the drills are being successful. So you look at the fire drill. When are you? Is it every year you are supposed to conduct the fire drill, or is monthly you are supposed to conduct the fire drill? You look at all these things as well. So this is an emergency which has been identified. So you can see a lot of fumes coming out from the place. So what preparation have you done? Sometimes you have to do fire drills to ensure that in case there's fire, you'll be able to quench the fire. So are you putting such emergency in place so that in case there's fire, people, your employee or the staff will be able to cure or to be able to quench the fire? So you have to look at all these things, because when you see this film coming up, it means that it's not environmentally friendly. You could see that this can never be environmentally friendly. So you look at it, and this will have to be taken into consideration when you are doing emergency preparation. So this is an example of fire drill where, and they are being trained. So you brought them, you trained them so that the people will have knowledge in fire quenching. So in case there is fire, they will be able to quench the fire. So how will you have to be checking continuously. There have to be periodic monitoring of the environment. Then you identify the root cause. So maybe when you check, what are the root cause that you identify? So if you have identified any root cause, what are the corrective actions that you have to take? And if there are ways that you can also put in place so that even you don't end up causing a lot of, you rather prevent than causing the issue and now trying to solve. Then you maintain environmental records. So all the records that you have to be checked. Then conduct periodic audits. So you get to audit where you talk about it and try to solve some examples as well. So the check-in should be established. So you want to monitor a measurement. You have to evaluate, and you have to look at, is there a compliance? Are people complying to the issues? Then you look at control of records. How can you control records? How can you keep? So maybe your documentation, you've seen that you have to keep records for 5 years before you have to discard. Are you doing that? We look at all these issues as well so that you can go according to that. So monitoring, so which measures are you putting in place to regular monitor the system? So you have to do that. So how can you monitor the system? So always you go around, would there be someone who goes around to ensure that, oh, refuses, the waste you are generating are well separated? You have to look at it. Will somebody be sent or will be responsible to ensure that the environment are being kept clean? Then you have to look at it. And who will be responsible to monitor and ensure that the cleaners are maintaining the facility in a clean manner? You have to look at all these things. So if there are machines which are doing the monitoring, if there are machines like maybe in your environment, you have to monitor the temperature because you are working in an environment where high temperature may cause issues or where high temperature may have effect on the results or the activities you are doing. So what are the ways that you can put in place to monitor? So you look at it, and if is the machine or the equipment you are using, is it calibrated? Is it well fit? That means, has it been certified that it is giving the right temperature? So if it is thermohygrometer, is it giving the right results that you need? So that at the end of the day, you don't have maybe a thermometer, you are generating a result, you are keeping your, for instance, let's take of the lab, where you have reagent in the fridge, then you end up not monitoring the fridge. Maybe the fridge is not giving you the right temperature. So you look at all these things as well. So if it is giving the right temperature, then you know, oh, this resource or this reagent, I'm keeping it at the right temperature. So if I'm using it, I know I'm doing the right thing. So you have to look at these things and monitor.
Oh.
Hello, Evans.
Yes.
Okay, so there are few people who have issues. I want to address few of them.
Okay.
Then you continue as soon as possible. There are some who are telling me they are in the same office or they are in the same lab or whatever the space may be. So they are group. Okay, if you know you are group and you are joining as a group, kindly let us know. And we need evidence that you are together at that place. Kindly let us know who and who are made up of the group. You have to send us message, let us know who are involved so that we can take record of all of you. Okay. Daniel Ansa appear. If you still have any concern, kindly ask it quickly so that we continue. Naid Rashid, if you also have concern, kindly ask it, then we continue. Okay, so that now the names, I think we are conforming to the names. Now, many are writing their names the right way. Abdallah, kindly write your name in full for us so that you get your record well captured. TechnoSpark 5 Pro, you just joined and your name is not correct. Kindly write your name in full. Techno 5 Spark, kindly write your name in full for us. All right, if someone has a question you want to ask before Evans continues, you can do that in a minute, then we continue. All right, Evans, continue for us.
Okay. So we are at a stage where you want to look at evaluation of compliance. So the ISO, are you conforming to it? What are the procedures that you are putting in place to ensure that there's conformance to the ISO? So you keep records of all the results you are achieving. So you look at all these things, evaluation. So you evaluate the results. So if you set the objective, which is in conformance with the standard, you look at it, what are the records that I'm achieving results? you look at all these records and you should have these records in place. So you want to look at non-conformances and corrective actions and prevention. How will you handle them? So I think let me do the audit. After the audit, you come to that.
All right, yes, thank you so much.
So let's look at audit, because after the audit, that is where you identify non-conformances, then you do that. So when you are talking of audit, we are identifying non-fulfillment of a standard in your system. So in your policy, we are saying you are doing this. Is it true you are doing this? So you want to look at it. So it could be internal or external audit. Internal in such a way that you train people in your facility who are well equipped in the scope of the audit. So what are the areas you want to do the audit? Are the people well equipped? They should have knowledge in those things. And those people should be unbiased. So if you are an internal auditor, you should be unbiased. You don't just go and audit this facility, and because you have issue with maybe the supervisor, you raise non-conformances which even did not exist. So you shouldn't be biased. You should be somebody who has knowledge in what you are doing, and you should be somebody to, even though you are not biased, you should be able to say what it is. So if you are anything you identify, you should be able to say it. With the external audit, where someone coming outside the facility comes to assess the system you are put in place. So if you're a facility operating, the external audit is somebody who is coming from another facility, so that he comes to assess the system you have in place. Indeed, is the system you have in place, is it conforming to the standard? If it's not conforming, then you raise those non-conformances so that you can tackle them. So if you are doing an audit, are you doing what you said you would do? So you have written a document, a procedure, you have done documentation where you are telling us that there are certain things you are going to do. You want to know, are you doing them? So if I'm an auditor, if I come, you said you should add A to B. So in your facility, every morning you are supposed to clean the bench. Maybe you've come to your facility as a nutritionist and you have not cleaned even the bench you are going to work with. You didn't clean it. And if you clean it, what is the evidence that you have done? When I come, I need a proof. It's not by mouth saying. No, I want a proof. I want a record to know indeed what you said you do, you are doing it. So if I don't see it, then it's a non-conformance, because there is no evidence to show that we said you do A and B, but you have done it. So I come and I see it as a non-conformance. So in audit, you normally have to have a program for the audit. How frequent are you going to do the audit? Which method are you going to do, or which procedure are you going to use? And who will be responsible for those audits? So if it is internal, or is your facility always going to outsource the audit to an external person? And who will be reporting to who? So you have to have all these criteria in place. So you define the criteria and the scope. So you select the auditors objectively. So you don't, when you are preparing the team for the audit, you ensure that you are objective. You don't just select people that we think maybe I'm now a safety manager or I'm now the facility manager. At first, I used to be at this nutrition department, lab department. So because I was at lab department, let me appoint somebody as the lead audit who will ensure that people who will favor my department are being put at that place. You don't do that. You are objective and impartial. And you ensure that after the audit has been done, the resource is being given to management, so that management will look at it and know that indeed these are the issues that the facility is facing. What can we do to ensure that all these non-conformances are closed? Because sometimes without the knowledge of management, the resources you are going to use is coming from management. But here is the case, management is not aware of the non-conformances. How are they going to give these resources to? How are you going to get resources to solve it? Even sometimes the non-conformances will have to be closed from management level, but here is the case, they are not aware. So what happens to it? So you look at all these technicalities before you appoint the auditors. So let's look at example of an audit. So let's, after non-conformances, you come and deal with the issue that you have. So non-conformance, as I've already said, is a non-fulfillment of a standard. So if you are not conforming to the standard, then it's a non-conformance. Then what are the measures that you put in place to correct that non-conformances that you have generated? So establishing and maintaining procedure. So you handle and investigate after you have identified that, oh, we have realized that when we did the audit, you saw that infectious waste are being mixed with the general waste. So that is a non-conformance that has been identified. So since that non-conformances has been identified, then you need to solve it. So you look at the ways that you can use to solve it when you get there. What action are you taking to ensure that that impact will be quick? So you look at it. So you look at putting measures in place to ensure that appropriate correction and prevention. So after correcting it, you ensure it doesn't happen again. So you look at that aspect as well. So you record any changes recording from corrective action. So in case there has been change, you have to document it. Then after you have done the non-conformances has been done, has it, maybe you monitor, you wanted to monitor, is it 2 or 3 months? If it doesn't happen again, then you know that I have to close this because I have been able to solve it. So you review the effectiveness after you have solved it. How effective has it been? You look at it. So that is the implementation. So why do you have a non-conformance? Why are you having why do you continuously get a non-conformance? So you know, in a facility, we can never have 100% achievement, like 100%. No facility is 100%. No, it's not possible. So day in and day out, we have said that we have this documentation in place. Definitely, we know in working with humans, there are people who always go contrary to the norms. So implementation is different from documentation, even though it has been documented like this. But we see that the implementation differs. Then maybe the system is not working. In the system, there is no leadership. No one is showing leadership. So the system is not working. So if there's nobody showing leadership, it means that you may not have the system being working. So we need a leader to lead, to ensure that everybody follows the procedure so that the system begins to work. If the system is working well, you will be getting a lot of non-conformance. You do an audit and you are raising so many non-conformance. No, if the system is working. Requirement is being not addressed. So we are having non-conformance because the ISO 14001 is saying this, you should ensure that A, B, and C is done. No, but we don't even pay attention to the requirement the ISO is saying you should do. No, people are doing what they think will help them in the system, and that will result in a non-conformances. So when you talk of a record, as I indicated, it's a special type of document. You provide verification of things that has happened. So if you said, I have appointed a safety manager, what are the evidence that you have indeed appointed a safety manager? Because if I come and you say, Mr. So is a safety manager, what was the appointment letter? What is the evidence? If you're saying that this is a advisor of this facility, what is the evidence? All in the ISO, all what you are looking for is evidence. We deal with evidence. You don't deal with just MAPC, but we deal with evidence. So individual records are not updated. So if I come and indeed, Mr. So was maybe a technician, he said he has upgraded. What is the records to prove? And these things are done on the file. So when I come as an auditor, I look for the file. We said, Mr. So performed this particular test. Then I ask for the competency assessment of the person. And you tell me he's competent, but there's no records to show that indeed such a person is competent. Then I won't take it because there is no record in that effect. So you talk of records as well. So all the procedures, all the how you want to identify, how you want to store, protection, everything that you want to dispose of environmental record will have to be documented. So when I come, I have to have evidence. Then there should be records. So when I come and you said you are conforming to the environmental standard, what is the evidence? What are the things that you are doing that shows indeed you are conforming to it? So you look at all these things. When a records, when I come or when they are saying a record is properly maintained, then it should be eligible. It should be something I can easily identify. Then it should be able, I should be able to trace to the activities that we've done. So when I come and we say, today you recorded this temperature, or you came, when I came there, I came to your facility today and you told me you have done a cycling test, Then I ask you, what is the control? So if you said you've done control, but the control was not recorded, how can I be sure that the results you are giving out is the right one? Because there is no evidence to that. So in this case, you talk of records. So in ISO, you are talking of evidence, records. So you don't just accept anything. You don't just accept anything. So you talk of records. So records should be legal compliant. So if I'm saying I'm keeping these records, it should be legally, I'm following legal things, so that in records too, if you always keep the record, in case you find your facility in trouble, maybe EPA, they came to your facility that you didn't do so and so. So what is the evidence? Indeed, we did it. The only thing that can save you is when you have the record, so that when someone sees you with the record, you can able to save yourself from such legal situations. So process monitoring, a record should be something which you can continuously monitor. Then you look at the environmental aspect and impact as well. Environmental training. If you say you have done training for the safety manager, the cleaners, when I come, what are the evidence that you said we did? I will look at the evidence. Then you look at the calibration and maintenance activities. All the machines you are using to monitor maybe the environment. What is the maintenance? When this you said this machine got spot so. So what is the evidence? When the engineer came to repair it, what records did he write? What did he say has fault? Does the records really indicate that? You look at all these things when you are dealing with records. So communication as well, you should be, all communication will have to be recorded. Sometimes it can be in a letter for where you communicate, even if it's a WhatsApp. What is the message showing that you communicated on the WhatsApp page? If it is meeting, what are the minutes? That shows that indeed you wrote this minute on so and so. So all these things will have to be there when it comes to records. With ISO, you look at records, what you are saying you are doing, what is the evidence? You look at for all these evidence and we deal with it. You don't deal with mouth saying. So you want to look at this. After audit, the auditor identified that there was no, this one is no competency down for the EMS coordinator. It means that the person who is coordinating, who is ensuring that others will do the right thing, there is no competency assessment. There was no competency done for him. So it means that that person who is even doing or managing or monitoring those things is not competent to do such a job. So you look at the records. So when the records shows that the person is not competent, then you look at what can be done. So in competence, so this is a non-conformance that has been raised. So what was raised? So in non-conformances, you have something you call, maybe in your facility, you can design what you call occurrence forms, where all those non-conformances can be written and solved. So all those non-conformances can be written. So I want to begin with a form that I have here, which I term the occurrence forms. Sorry. With this occurrence forms, it has an non-conformance. So if we are, a non-conformance should be given a number. So maybe within 2022, how many non-conformances have you gotten? How many non-conformances has been raised? You have to look at it. So you give it a number. And who is recording that non-conformance? Maybe at the end of the day, this was a non-conformance.
Even we can't see the form. Have you projected the form? You can't see it.
Can it be seen now?
No, check your screen. You can't see it. Maybe you, is it also on slide?
No,
Is it on the slide?
No.
Then change the screen.
Is it?
Then you should change the screen. Because now you are showing the presenter screen. So close the presenter screen.
I think I'm holding it, so I'll share it through the video.
Okay. Okay, so you can go ahead. So you attach it as one of the attachments. All right, go ahead. Okay, you want to show it to the video.
Yeah.
Then raise it a bit higher.
Can
Okay, it's going to be difficult. So you have to scan and share with the group. All right, so you continue. We'll scan and share with the group.
So within the non-conformance, you want to look at the staff who was recording the non-conformance. So in your facility, which staff is recording the non-conformance? So if it was Mr. Paul, he writes his name on the form that it was Mr. Paul who was recording the non-conformance. Then the non-conformance, you look at it. The occurrence form, there are things that you have, was it a customer complains, sometimes some of these non-conformances will be coming from a customer. A customer came to your facility and you saw that your facility has a lot of refuse in front of your door. So in that case, it can be a customer complaint. Was it a suggestion? Maybe a customer or somebody came there and you saw that if you do this, it will help. So he made a suggestion. Was it an observation you yourself observed, or it was others? And in this case, it was an internal audit that we identified this non-conformance. So we look at, so this is a non-conformance. So we have a place we call detailed description of the non-conformance. Then you look at the section head review. So the section person who will be reviewing this non-conformance. Then what effect? So if you are saying that the coordinator himself is not competent to carry this operation, it means that it will affect the environment that we are operating in. And if it's affecting the environment, it means a lot of things you have been doing, if you are, the services will be wrong, because the person who is even monitoring the system or who is ensuring that system are done right is not competent to do that. So it affects the facility as a whole. And in non-conformances, we have major and minor non-conformances. The major ones is serious and it can have, some of them have, it indirectly may have effect on what you are doing. The minor non-conformance sometimes do not have serious effect. For instance, maybe I go to the washroom and there is no tissue to clean, like after the person has washed his hands, there's no tissue for the person to clean the hands. It's a non-conformance in the sense after washing their hands, they are supposed to get tissues to clean their hands. But this one is just a minor non-conformance. So you can easily sort it. But here is the case, the person is not competent to do that. So this one is a major non-conformance. So when you saw that the person is not competent, what do you do? So
meeting before.
What did you do? So you look at immediate action taken. So it means that if this person is not competent, it means you have to quickly notify management for them to take action, because if you identify the coordinator is not competent, it means that everything the facility is undergoing is going the wrong way, because the person is not competent. A lot of activities the person may be carrying is not in the right order. So what do you have to do? You have to quickly notify the management so that this issue will be solved. So this is, we are using Fishbone to do our analysis. So in non-conformances, when you identify non-conformances, we have 3 different forms that we can use to raise issues which may be pertaining to the non-conformances that we have raised. We can use the brainstorming. So in brainstorming, we are asking questions which may have caused the issues leading to this non-conformance. So as he said, there was no competency assessment. So when I'm using a brainstorming activity, the first question I'll ask is that, is the person, maybe the person is not having the required education level because there was no proof, or maybe the training was done, the competency assessment was done, but it was not filed. That is why I couldn't locate it in his or her file. Maybe it has been misplaced. So these are possible questions. So after asking all those possible questions, then we select the best. So in brainstorming, it can be more than one. Maybe the one who was supposed to do the non-conformance decided to ignore. It's one of the brainstorming questions you may ask. The competency was done, but it got missing. It was done, but it was not filed. So all these questions can be asked. Then we look at which of the questions that we have asked, which of so you look at it, which of the non-conformances, so you raise all these questions and we select the best.
Hello, Evans.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there was a network, so a lot of people left, but they are coming back. Okay, I think you can continue.
So which of them, so you raise all these questions, then we try to find which of them suit the best. So you look at it. So after looking at it, we try to provide corrective action. So if you are able, the non-conformances, well, it means that it will make the corrective action difficult to do. So a well-defined problem is a halfway solved. So in defining your non-conformances, it should be well defined, because if you are not able to define it well, it will be difficult to solve it. So a well-defined non-conformance is a halfway solved, because it makes it easy to ask the necessary questions and find solution to it. So in this case, the non-conformances, the corrective action you could say is that competency assessment should be done for the EMS coordinator. So if you say the corrective action competency assessment should be done for him, it means that immediately it is done, then he can now act as a coordinator. But this is so that is the brainstorming way. Then you have the fishbone. With the fishbone, for instance, here is the problem. So it has the problem statement. You state the problem. Then you look at it. The issues you have raised, is it related to environment, the laboratory environment? So if you are working in a laboratory environment, was the issue related to the laboratory environment? If it is reagent you are using, was the issue related to the reagent? If it is the sample, the non-conformances you raised, was it in relation to the sample? Is it in relation to the method or personnel? But in this case, we said that competency assessment was not done for the EMS coordinator, that is the environmental management system coordinator. So in this case, it means that the issue is related to the personnel. So if the issue is related to the personnel, what can be done? So we ask the next, so the next questions, we make sure the questions are being asked in relation to the line relating to the personnel. So you can ask, maybe competency was done, but the file got missing. Competency was not done at all. Or it was done, but it got lost. So we ask all those necessary questions, then we select the best. So in that case, you look at which section is doing that, who perform it. So you look at those questions, who perform it, then you look at a higher person or a supervisor will have to review and ensure that all those things the person has documented is in the right order. Then he or she sign and the date. Then you close the non-conformance. So immediately competency assessment is done for the coordinator. Then we can now close. You can now close it. So it means that the issue has been solved. So that is what is done during non-conformance. Hello. Hello. Hello.
Hello, Evans. Are you there?
Yeah. Can I be heard?
Okay. Yes. You should be summing up.
Okay.
For us. Okay.
So review management. So management review. You look at management review, which normally is at the management level. So you involve management, what should be done. So meeting will have to be held, as you've already indicated. Is it yearly, or if it's not yearly, how is it supposed to be? And this management review, it takes input from all sorts. So you look at it, and every management review, the minutes have to be documented. And if there should be changes, then all those things has to be done. And management review is normally done at the top level. So you have improvement programs where you identify certain areas you can improve the system, then you do that accordingly. Then you have continuous, where you look at the effectiveness of the training, how it has helped to improve the environmental performance. So this is an improvement project where the books were left in this manner, but you provided this where the books can be found in this. So you could see that we identify this and we try to improve. So it's an improvement project where books were kept anyhow, but now they are being found in this, let me say, in this cardboard. So this is an improvement project where we identify and it was solved accordingly. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been a long 2-hour journey for all of us. Thank you so much for the information. Let's open the floor for questions. Today, let's focus our questions on the subject that was discussed yesterday and today. If you have any suggestion or input, you can as well let us know. So if you have any question, kindly raise your hand and I'll call you. Stella Piache, kindly ask your question.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Please, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can.
We are talking about keeping records and, like when there's an audit or supervision so that you provide evidence. But I think that we should also consider the fact of putting, how should I put it? You should consider the fact of having a backup plan. You have maybe temperature chart. You have done something on temperature chart on a sheet of paper or some file, but in some cases it may get wet or get missing. But if you have a backup plan and there are auditors around, you can show it to them. That's my contribution too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So both electronic, if possible, to put an electronic record to what you do. It's also now in the modern day, you can't. There are even facilities that are even doing more of electronic records. So if you can do that, I think it's equally perfect. Stella Apiache, okay, thank you so much. Anthony Zreki, Comfort, I can't call you. Kindly give me your full name. Anthony,
Yes.
can I
Yeah,
ask you a
hello.
question?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, so I mean, I was listening to the whole presentation on EMS, and I noticed that with his presentation, it syncs directly with health and safety management. In other jurisdictions, they have it combined so that the health and safety works on environmental management as well as quality management. That is ISO 9001 and ISO 45001. And so I asked, in terms of in Ghana, what's the challenge in terms of regulation or laws that are spearheading implementation or compliance with these management systems? Because, like I know, ISO standards are not statutory, require statutory compliance. These are standards that put organizations in good repute. And so they are not under any obligation to really implement them. But are there laws enough to put organizations, either the hospitals, Ghana Health Service or whatever health service or the private sector, are there laws enough to put them in a position whereby they are forced to comply strictly by the standards as required? Because most of the time we improvise on many occasions in our laboratories. So this is my question.
Okay, Evans,
Okay.
you can
Yeah.
make your input.
Okay, thank you for the question. As a safety law, as we talk of, is still in Parliament, which has not been passed. So it makes it difficult for organization to be burdened, to ban the organization to do those things. So as at now, we don't have laws in place. And most of the regulatory bodies who are supposed to go around to ensure that people are also doing the right thing, most of them are in a relaxed mood. So there hasn't been law, but now a lot of people too are coming to the light. People or clients are getting to know the standards. So if your organization and you yourself, if you don't position yourself in order for you to be trusted, with time, all your clients will be lost. So most organizations are now also seeing that light, and they are trying to position themselves in accordance with us. But with time, I think when these laws are passed, then enforcement can be laws, they can now be enforced. For now, we don't have any laws in place which really enforce any organization to undergo such.
Okay, thank you. Please, a little follow-up. Which institution is now regulating the accreditation? Which institution is issuing? Is this Ghana Standards Authority?
No, for now, you have the health and safety, this law, which is in Parliament now, and because it has not been passed now, you can't force it unless it becomes a law.
Oh no, it's not about the enforcement. I'm talking about in terms you want your your institution to have accreditation. Which organization is issuing the accreditation? Which institution now?
For
is it
now,
Ghana Standards Authority?
For now, most labs that are getting accreditation, they are getting it outside. They are getting it from institutions which are outside Ghana. So some are getting it from US, Kenya, and other stuff. So they are not in Ghana. It's just the Koforidia one, which was accredited by Ghana Standard Authority.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I was asking about the type of accreditation that you are referring to, because there are different accreditation agencies for different ISO standards that they tend to give accreditation.
So, well, in my case, unfortunately, I'm not in Ghana at the moment. That's what I was asking. Because I am currently practicing in the UK, and in the UK they have UCAS that issues all the accreditations. Yeah, so I was wondering because I know HIFRA is looking at your infrastructure in terms of your building and how safe enough your building is for operation, which in its sense should be part of the accreditation process.
Sure.
You see, so I mean, my concern with Ghana particularly is how our laws are scattered all over the place. I think it's high time we try to consolidate them and have a structured body that looks at accreditation in general, whether it's in the clinical setting or an industrial setting. So that is why I'm asking these questions to kind of clarify. Yeah, thank you.
Hello.
Thank you. Please,
Hello.
mute. We will call you.
Hello.
If you have question, we will call you. Kindly raise your hand. We will call you.
I have raised my hand twice.
Hello? Yes, if you just, there are a lot of hands. We will definitely call you. You are addressing someone's question. We will call you.
Because some of the submission on the floor, I want to make a contribution.
Okay. So you are the name, please.
Comfort.
Your hand is not up, right? So comfort. Even initially, I wanted you to give me your name in full so that we can capture it well.
Comfort Nyameba Opoku. Comfort Nyameba Opoku.
So when you are done submitting your comment, kindly change your name and give us the full name so that it will work out. All right, kindly yes, we are recording it That is why I'm saying just make sure you edit it for us so that we have it on the system.
Okay.
Kindly bring up your submission.
One, there's a correction I want to make about the Koforidia accreditation. Koforidia accreditation was not awarded by Food and Standards Authority. Koforidia accreditation was awarded by Kwadai accreditation, which is Asia Pacific accreditation body. Both Koforidia and Greater Accra Regional Hospital. That's the first correction I want to make. The second correction I want to make is that Ghana has Ghana accreditation body for quality management systems for ISO 15189.
Yes.
And therefore, we can assess it and we have to make it work, because if we have the Ghana system in place, we don't have to go and use an external body to do our quality management system. So Ghana now has an accreditation body. Number two.
Number three. Oh, she's gone.
Please, she should come back because the ISO she mentioned was for laboratory management system.
What's going on?
Is she back? Please bring her back, please.
Okay, so we have, like she was saying, we have the GANAS. There is an accreditation system in Ghana called GANAS. Unfortunately, they've not accredited any center as of now. But there's an accreditation system like that in the system. Even beside what the one that the Ghana Standard Authority adopted, the ISO that the Ghana Standard Authority adopted, that one too is there. But that one, because of there's a lot of issues around them. But the Ministry of Industries also came up with GANAS, which I have seen the document. But as of now, they've not accredited any facility that I know of. Yes. So let's
thanks
move
for the
to the next question. All right. Salome Ansa, can I ask you a question? Grando Zachariah, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, sir. I want to find out about this environmental management system.
Okay.
Is it a shared responsibility, or it is only meant for the members who are selected to be in the team?
You mean that the idea
Okay.
of environmental management system in general.
Yes, please.
I get it.
That is for the entire team. So if it's a hospital that you are in, there is a policy that should be implemented across board. Of course, there could be specifics because the waste that the lab generates is different from what may be coming from the pharmacy, and likewise the ward. So there should be.
Sir, I'm
specifics.
asking
Yes.
this because I'm asking this because it's like some of the members in the lab, when you
Okay.
observe about this environmental management system issue concerning how to manage waste.
Okay.
You see that some people are just looking aloof, as some few others think that it is a shared responsibility and they are taking care of all the waste within the lab, but others are just looking aloof. So that's why I want to know whether it's a shared responsibility or it's meant for the members who are selected to manage the system within the lab.
Okay, so that is one of the reasons why some of these meetings have to come on board every now and then, so that we will update ourselves and put our offices and our professional journeys in the right position. So it's for everyone. I mean, waste, both the patients, you, the staff, the facility as a whole, everyone should be involved in, environmental safety issues. Because if there is fire in your hospital, it will not spare both the one who is in the committee or the one who is not in there. So it's for everyone, for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Tete. Thank you. Maswa Tete, kindly ask your question.
Please, I want to ask, if the names are submitted to the council, can we use the CPD point to renew our PINs only this year, or you can decide to use it next year?
CPDs are awarded yearly. CPDs are supposed to be done yearly. So every year you need fresh CPDs. So you can't use this year's CPD for next year.
No, I asked because I already have some CPD somewhere. So can I decide to use one this year and then maybe the next year?
The knowledge is what is more paramount to the council. If I understand the council very well, they want us to give the knowledge. So next year, this same knowledge, if it's shared, we expect that you join, and it's a continuous professional development. So it's not something that you do today and next year you said I'll not do again. So the council will not allow you to use a previous year CPD for this year.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Harriet Watson, kindly ask your question. Harriet. Bright Amiao. Bright Amiao, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello.
Hello, yes.
Yeah, this is Bright. Yeah, my question
right.
is that he took us through what we call non-conformities.
Yes.
Yes. I would like to know if facility management is also not conforming. In other words, they are not supporting what the staff are putting in place to make sure that they achieve certain standards and probably apply for accreditation. What happens to the facility management?
Okay, so for a facility to come to the understanding of seeking accreditation, there should be a continual flow of leadership from the top to the bottom, and likewise from the bottom to the top. So a facility, I must say, if a facility staff want to go for ISO and they are putting in the right measures, but the leadership is not ready, then it means that the facility is already in non-conformance. So there has to be that kind of understanding that the two will have to agree. Okay.
My question is that
the two don't agree.
What happens to the facility management? Because I know some facility staff are working hard to make sure that they achieve that, but the support from facilities may not be there.
Yeah, so I mean, unless someone has different view, But for
Yeah,
me,
can I contribute? Can I
all
contribute?
right, sure. I think you can
I mean,
contribute, Mr. Anthony.
like I was saying, you cannot implement quality management system without management contribution or facilities
Yes.
as you're talking about. Because from the presentation that was given, we realized that one of the critical ingredient or entity that is required in implementing this is resources.
Yes.
The employees on their own cannot provide those resources. Resources might be provided by management, because at the end of the day, the implementation of the management system is a responsibility of management. So that when
Yes.
there are conformities, although your system has designed and structured the system in a way to give assign responsibilities to people, the aftermath effect of it all is that all the responsibilities goes back to management, and management must put processes in place whereby people who are assigned to responsibilities are actually performing their role as required by the management system. And so it is not an individual effort, but though individuals are required for the success of the implementation of the management system, the onus lies on management.
So in other ways,
Yeah.
What should the department, assuming it's, let's say, pharmacy, assuming it is laboratory, what should the pharmacy or laboratory management do? Because if, like we said, the top management is not giving priority to that, but they are channeling resources into other things. And we also want to promote standard and quality, which we have acquired knowledge for. What should the staff, in this case, they are members of allied health, professional body, of that particular department do? Because you are giving us this knowledge, not only for knowledge sake, but to apply. What should they do?
Yes. So, Mr. Anthony, let me quickly add this one. And
Go ahead.
So, I mean, we can't say we are working in isolation. So if you are operating in a big hospital, so you have several departments, you have the lab is just one of such departments. So in as much as you are demanding, all other departments are also demanding. So there's a possibility that maybe the management is not looking up to you, which could be a case. So our advice that we should keep lobbying, we should keep cutting across where we can get the links, because if you are in a huge facility, I mean, in as much as you are demanding, everyone is also demanding. So we should look at our lobbying skills, push harder, and also provide data to the management. We have to be able to convince them. So we have to come out with data. Maybe we were doing ABC last year. This was the outcome. This was the non-conformances we detected. Now we want to implement ABC. Next year, when we did that, we had this. Now, if you have such data and you can convince the management, even if the management is not supporting you, you'll be surprised if you publish such data. There are people, there will be public outcry, and even people who are not even working from that space can even come to support. So I think we have to just gather all the arsenal that we can, then keep pushing so we get our aim achieved.
Evans, let me add to what
sorry.
you have said.
Okay.
Can I add to what you have said?
Sure, you can.
All that is said about, you know, let's see the laboratory as part of a system, and that's for quality management system, and for everything we do in the lab, we must buy into management plan or strategy for the hospital. That is number one. There's no way, as he said, you can acquire ISO 1589 or implement quality management system without the support of your upper management, and that is the hospital management. So all you have to do is to help them to understand what you want to bring on board and why it is necessary and important to acquire this ISO standard. Once management buys into your idea, then things become easy because there's no way you can get resources. QMS is expensive, and therefore you need the full complement of your top upper management. When it comes to equipment, calibration, buying backup analyzers, it all should come from upper management decision. So you need to let them understand, first and foremost, why you need to embark on this journey. And once they are able to buy into your idea, then everything flows and becomes easy for you. Otherwise, you can't do it because you are not the final authority to sign money or allot money for logistics. They have a budget to cater for every department in the hospital. And I tell you, even Koforidia, the kind of systems the CEO put in place, when auditors went there, he was put on query that through the QMS, they have spent almost 90% of the hospital revenue on the lab. He was queried. So you need management support all over the world. It's key. You can't implement ISO without management support. Thank you.
That's nice, Auntie Comfort. Please, to add a little, I think one other way that can push management to buy into the idea is the implementation of laws, as I was saying. Because when there's law regulation governing management systems or quality to be attained, in most instances, the law requires that the organization performs in a way that in the barest minimum practical, kind of puts the operations of the organization on the path that does not, in a way that its operations does not affect or have an impact, negative impact on the general public. And like our facilitator said, you are looking with environmental management, you are looking at pollution, noise pollution, environmental pollutions, other stuff. So your carbon emissions and all of these things. So if there are regulations in place whereby the organization's operations have negative impact on the environment, the organization can be sued. And so because they can be sued, they will be forced to go for ISO as an alternative way to complying with regulation. And that is why I was asking whether the laws have been consolidated enough, because it is the best alternative means of getting management buy-in to the implementation of management systems. That's what I would say. Thanks.
The laws are very, very important. However, can you hear me?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
So I'm making a suggestion that going forward, from my experience where I sit, if you can also add on how to write proposals, okay, and then as a presentation to help members who may not have that kind of skills, so that if they can outsource or step outside their facility for help, because you know, like you mentioned, the needs of the facility are many, and then people are demanding here and there. So if you can add going forward, allied health professional body or council can add how to write proposal to lobby for support, financial support, because when accreditation comes, it's not only the facility that will benefit, the entire population. So there are some companies that may be willing to support. So if you can take us through in future how to write proposals, lobby to get financial support, that's an input that I'm making to this going forward.
Thank you so much. Considered. Your suggestion is considered.
All right.
Yeah, so Mr. Bright, I was just trying to add something small, then we close. I think we are done with. Yes.
Since there's Dominic has raised the hand.
Yeah,
Have you
Dominic
seen-
is there. Yes. Dominic
So-
Kodia, can I ask you a question,
Yes.
then we close?
Okay, so it's also a comment in addition
Okay.
to what one lady earlier said. Yes, can I go on?
Yes, you can.
Okay, so to get management to commit to ISO is for management themselves to be part of the initial training of why there should be an ISO. It is not for the lab or the downstream employee to know the essence of the ISO and to now convince the top management. Top management must understand the essence of the ISO. They should be part of the initial engagement with the external accreditation body. If any institution wants an ISO, of course, they should conform or come near to an accreditation body. So, like for example, SANAS, we have different organizations. You told that most of them are outside. And then they start training. The training must first start with top management, the essence of the accreditation itself. And then it will flow from them, where management policies will start flow from them. And then the training starts running from the top to down. Now, when it starts from down and you want it to get to the top, my brother, it is going to be a struggle. I've witnessed, and I think on 2 different occasions, where an ISO accreditation was successful because management were initially trained to understand why there should be an ISO. So in fact, management was rather even implementing it. You get it? So this is what a little thing that I want to add, that sometimes with such approach, having the knowledge now is good, but you can convince them that, you know what, we need such an ISO, so we should approach our body, and then the body will start engaging management and engaging them. They will train them to let them understand. That's where it starts from. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Dominic,
Thank you
Dominic,
so much.
hold on. Dominic,
Okay.
are you not
Okay.
in a managerial position? Because in most of organizations that do implement this, the initiative actually comes from the department that is interested in it. And you need to show by evidence the reason why. Because most of the time, management look at profits in terms of profit and their expenditure and what the kind of financial benefit implementing ISO brings to them. And so most of the time, the onus depends on you. If you are in a capacity to influence management, that is where your job comes in. And so I think this training is well situated, that we as members who are potential managers of labs are equipped with the knowledge to convince management of the need to implement ISO in our facilities. Would you agree with me on that on that score? Would you?
To a partial extent, I will agree with you. If you have a sort of management that have been pre-exposed to accreditation, they can easily buy into it. But if you are using a local person who seriously doesn't understand ISO,
so it's a matter of credibility.
Really invest a lot of money. ISO is really capital intensive.
So it's an issue of credibility. Is that what you are trying to say? That if you, the local person, talks to management,
if the management knows that after getting accreditation, it becomes a selling point for the institution to market itself, to rebrand itself, to attract more customers, because it means they have all their service at and performing their service at international standard, acceptable international standard. They can attract a lot of international customers. You get it? So this must be most of them maybe running in trying to convince them as a financial end, because every company runs as a business. Hospital runs as a business to be able to get money. You get it? So that financial thing must come first. You get it? If it doesn't come first, I swear, brother, it will never succeed. I've tried in other places before where I put a proposal to a local person, let me put it in quotes, to be able to implement some kind of ISO system. And looking at the proposal, it was full of a lot of financial commitments.
Yeah.
And it was a no, it was shut down. Then that, but you know, I can't have the backup. You know, this quality control, so I have to buy commercial control every time. And you know, these controls cost more, and it was a lot of questions. You get it? But at the end of the day, if the person or the institution is able to attain that ISO, it is a big selling point for that organization. And that can really make up for all those investment that you place in to be able to get the ISO. Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you so much.
Before you wind up, Evans, let me step in this. You know,
okay.
To begin making things attractive for your managers, upper management, begin with the little things that does not cost money. Look at our labs.
Okay. Are you not on the WhatsApp group?
We run our day-to-day activities. When our equipments break down, how do we arrange our workflow? You know, there are certain basic things we can do. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Why don't we begin with things that does not cost money?
On this number and tell me you want the. I'll add you to the WhatsApp group and send you the distance.
So please, all we are asking is that begin to make changes in the lab that borders on cleanliness and how you arrange your workflow so that these things does not cost money. Good documentation, it doesn't cost too much money, you see. So begin in your own small way about things that does not, changes in the lab that does not cost money. And once they begin to see how things are changing in the lab, it becomes attractive to them. So that's what I'll advise you to do. But
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
You can also contact us at United and Eastern Region, and then we can come and convince your managers where the world is going as far as the lab work is
Well done, I take over. Well done.
Comfort has done some argument today.
We can convince your managers. I will show you a video at a point of how Koforidia looks like today.
Wow.
And it's so amazing and lovely. Nice. Yeah. So I will send to you, Evans, the Koforidia video. And at a point, just show it to the members on the platform. Okay. And everybody will be in love to go ISO.
ISO. Thank you so much. Thank everyone for joining today's session. There is more. We are going to discuss a lot of things that, will benefit all of us. So tomorrow, 4 o'clock, we will meet here again and continue the discussion. Tomorrow, Brother John will also take us through another aspect of the integrated management system. Thank you so much, and good evening to you all. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. It's been quite insightful. Mr. Evans, God bless you.